Hi everyone. North Sea. Night. A gusty, howling wind. Your ship is heading toward the mouth of the Thames. Safe harbor is just a couple of hours away. And then, instead of 20 meters under the keel, you suddenly have only 5. Then comes the jolt, the grinding crunch of sand. You've run aground, 37 kilometers from shore. Waves slam against the hull. What now? This is the Galloper Shoal, a place where hundreds of ships have met their end over the centuries. Until, in 1803, the British took a bold, pragmatic step. They placed another ship right on this deadly bank. As a voluntary guardian, a floating lighthouse called Galloper. What do a shifting sandbank in the North Sea and a London photo studio have in common? 200 years of history, iron, wood, and one name, Galloper. This was no warship. It carried no guns. Yet it saved more lives than any battleship. Here's how. The Galloper Shoal lies 37 kilometers off the Suffolk coast, directly on the shipping route to London, the heart of the British Empire. This part of the southern North Sea is littered with sandbanks, underwater dunes that behave like living things. On the crest of the bank, the depth can drop to just 3 to 5 meters, while all around it's 20 to 30 meters. Imagine an invisible underwater mountain. Now add the tides. At low tide the top may break the surface. At high tide it hides again. And the sand is constantly moving. A chart made last year can already be useless. Thousands of captains, unaware of the shoal's exact position, drove straight into it during storms. Wooden hulls broke apart within hours. Crews were thrown into icy water, miles from shore. It was a perfect, silent, invisible killing machine. In 1803 the Admiralty finally said, enough. And came up with a daring solution, station a permanent guard ship right on the shoal itself. Not to fight, but simply to stand there. And shine. Here's how it worked. The Galloper, the first in a long line of vessels bearing that name, was moored with a heavy permanent anchor at the most dangerous spot. It didn't move. Every night, lanterns were raised on its mast. How exactly did the light work? Look at the plans. Here's the lanterns section. See those lamps? These weren't candles or simple oil pots. They were advanced reflector lamps. Copper reflectors behind the flames gathered the light into a powerful beam and threw it toward the horizon. The whole assembly was sealed, hiding doors and cover lanterns protected the flame from wind and salt spray. The lanterns were mounted on a special mast, labeled Mast of Light on the drawing. They burned all night, every night, in any weather. A captain seeing 3 yellow lights on the horizon knew immediately, engines stop, hard over, shoal ahead. The Galloper Lightvessel was no beauty. It was a sturdy, broad-beamed workhorse with nearly round sections and heavy iron reinforcement. It didn't need speed, it needed to stay put. The ship had to survive the North Sea's worst storms without dragging its anchor or capsizing. The holds were filled with ballast. The sides were thicker than those of any ordinary merchantman. This wasn't really a ship. It was a floating beacon with a mission. The first Galloper appeared in 1803, right in the middle of the Napoleonic Wars. Why? French privateers and British convoys were constantly crisscrossing these waters. Losing a ship to the Galloper Shoal in wartime was especially painful. So at first the light vessel was operated by the Navy, and later handed over to Trinity House, Britain's oldest lighthouse authority, which is still operating today. Galloper wasn't just one ship, it was a station. The name was passed down like a title. When one vessel wore out or was lost, and yes, even Even floating lighthouses sometimes sank in storms. It was replaced by another. For example, in 1929 the wooden Tyne 3 took up station. Then in 1938 came the famous Lightvessel number 93. LV-93 was a different breed, a steel ship with a diesel engine and an automatic lamp. No more oil reflectors. Just one powerful electric light. She served on the Galloper, and later on other stations, right into the 1970s. And then, the era of manned light vessels ended. Navigation moved on to satellites and automatic buoys. The floating guardians were no longer needed. And here's the biggest surprise. LV-93 was not sent to the scrapyard. In the 2000s she was bought by a well-known London photographer. The ship was carefully restored. Inside, they created a studio, a kitchen, and rooms for models. And now this former light vessel, which for decades had shuddered through the North Sea's worst storms, sits peacefully on the Thames in London. On her deck, people in fashionable clothes smile for the cameras. From a silent guardian against sandy death, to Instagram-likes Galloper, a ship that served the Admiralty, survived hurricanes, and became a floating art object. Maybe this is the best possible ending for an old sailor. When I first learned that LV-93, the very same Galloper, is now a photo studio on the Thames, I was outraged. How can you treat a veteran like that? But then I thought, what's better? To rust away in a shipbreaker's yard? Or to keep shining? Even if it's no longer for sailors, but for people with cameras. To keep shining, always. There were dozens of such stations around the British coast. But it all began with one, on the Nore, at the mouth of the Thames. Imagine England, 1730. The Thames estuary. Ships are constantly wrecking on the shifting sandbanks. And then two men receive a royal license to do business. On a deadly show. The first is Robert Hamblin, a former barber. Yes, he used to cut hair and shave beards before becoming a ship manager. The second is David Avery, simply a wealthy investor who loved risky ventures. Their plan was simple and audacious: place a vessel with a large lantern right on the dangerous Nore sandbank and charge every merchant ship a fee for safe passage. Essentially, a floating toll booth. Pure capitalist genius. But there was a problem. Britain already had Trinity House, the ancient corporation responsible for lighthouses, which considered navigation aids its sacred monopoly. They declared, no private barbers on the water. Lawsuits followed. Grinding of teeth. Petitions. Hamblin and Avery got their license. But not for long. Trinity House prevailed. The license was revoked, and the two entrepreneurs were simply bought out. They received a modest annual payment, while the light vessel passed into state control. And so, in 1734, the world's first floating lighthouse lit its lanterns on the Nore. It was a wooden hull with oil lamps and no engine. It was towed into position and moored permanently. It stood there in fog, in storms, in icy waters. And ships sailed past, and did not wreck. This marked the beginning of an era that would last more than 2.5 centuries. To make them visible by day, Trinity House painted the hulls a bright, unmistakable red. On the sides, huge white letters with the station's name. And on the masts, a system of balls and cones. This was the language of the lighthouse. One combination meant the station had a fault. Another warned of an approaching storm. At first, they used simple oil lamps. Then, in 1837, the Swin Middle Station received the world's first rotating light. Later came flashing and occulting, eclipsing, lights. The colors? Mostly white, it carried farthest. But there were also red lights and just one single green light vessel, the Mouse. Every light was unique. A captain peering into the night would see two white flashes with a red every 10 seconds and immediately know, that's this exact place. Home, safety. The station on the Nore was only the beginning. Hundreds of light vessels, thousands of crewmen, and millions of tons of cargo saved. One of the most dangerous stations appeared in 1803 on the Galloper Shoal, in the same North Sea. Today, manned floating lighthouses have almost disappeared. Satellites, GPS, automatic buoys have taken their place. But the next time you see a bright red hull with white lettering in a museum or an old photograph, remember, you're not looking at rusty iron. You're looking at 250 years of continuous light, lit by someone every single night, so that others could make it home. Thanks for watching.